morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, I think. Welcome to Viewpoint. I didn't hear Nat King Cole introduce us. Unforgettable. But you're listening to that unforgettable program, listened to by all of two people in Logan County. They hang on every word Judith K. and I said. Anyway, welcome to Viewpoint, seriously. We always try to start Viewpoint with a kudo or two, and it seems to me, I'll just take the time to do this, if you don't mind, Mrs. Busby.
Yes.
I get particular pleasure out of having our one guest with us this morning. No discredit to you, Mr. Froebe, at all. But I watched this young man grow up. It gave me a great deal of pleasure watching him scatter around on the basketball court on the maple floor there. And here he is, a successful young man. So, Ryan Williams, glad to have you with us this morning. Why don't you be, and kudos to you and your family, sir. Go right ahead and with the formal introductions. Do you know how to do that?
I'll take a stab at it. Our guests this morning are from Lincoln Elementary School District 27, where Bill's and my kids went.
A few years ago.
Right. Actually, several years ago. It was good then, and it's good today, thanks to people like yourselves. Ryan Williams is a school board member, and Kent Froebe is the superintendent of Lincoln Elementary School District 27. They've had, among other issues to face them, the issue of too open or not too open, and if so, when. And I'm sorry this falls to you because it's a big darn decision, and you can't please all the people all the time. I think that's one of the first rules of life. And I thank you for tackling it and coming up with an answer. And I'm interested in how all the machinations took place to come to your conclusions.
And Ryan, Kent, you understand that no matter what decision you make, it's not going to be right.
This is worse than, yeah, you're right. And this is
that's
worse
the
than,
unfortunate truth, you know.
It's worse than any snow day I ever had to call, for sure.
Amen.
So, yeah.
I'm sure, and I don't envy you, and bless your hearts for tackling it. It has to be tackled. How much truck do you have with the other districts? We even have several districts right in our town here, you know, in our county, surely. And do you consort with one another?
We do, and so that's what Lincoln's very fortunate to have excellent superintendents at West Lincoln and Chester East and the high school and New Holland Middletown, and so we have been meeting regularly and discussing, you know, kind of what plans should look like, and we wanted to try to make sure that they mirrored each other, you know, because the last thing we wanted was for one to be doing something completely opposite of the other. That just doesn't make a lot of sense for families in Lincoln. And so we've been meeting and talking regularly. We decided to push our plans out this week. So I think the high school, after the board meeting, maybe push theirs out on Monday night or early Tuesday, and then West Lincoln and CEL and followed suit. We pushed ours out yesterday afternoon, and I think New Holland Middletown, theirs will be coming out shortly as well. So it's one of those things where we just felt like we needed to somewhat be on the same page. Like you mentioned, not everyone's going to be happy, but I think the key to the plans are giving families choice. And so it's one of those things where you can choose between in-person instruction, and all of us have gone to shortened days, the high school even shorter than the elementaries, but they grapple with different things out there in terms of not being able to track kids in a group of keeping them in a cluster of 20. I mean, they have so many electives and things that they're changing classes. Lunch was very difficult to figure out how to keep it to 50 people in a room out at the high school when you've got that many kids and so limited lunch times and lunch space. So they're actually releasing close to one. I think it was like 12:54 or 12:55, and just doing where they grab a lunch on the way out and go home. Our plan, we're going till 1:45. We will feed the kids a breakfast. They'll get it and they'll head to their classroom and eat it in their classroom with their class, and then we will have lunch, and we are going to eat in the cafeteria, but we've had to really stagger it to where kindergarten first and second can't all eat in the cafeteria together anymore, so it'll be by grade level. Kindergarten will eat together, first grade will eat together, second grade, and then we'll be releasing at 1:45. And
it sure made things unwieldy for you, didn't it?
well, and like I keep saying, not everybody's happy, and I get questions from, will they have to wear a mask? Yes, it is a requirement. They have to wear a mask. To why are you releasing them at 1:45? And I think that it's important to understand that we've got to have help cleaning the room, disinfecting the rooms nightly, so the aides and the teachers, everybody will be stepping up. It's truly an all hands on deck situation where they'll be helping clean. We'll also have, because like I mentioned, there's choice. Not only do we have in person, but we'll have some families that choose to keep their kids at home, and we've got to provide an education for those families at home. So from 1:45 till 3:30, when the teachers get off on their work day, they'll be working to provide remote learning for those kids that are at home. They'll be preparing, because all of their prep time pretty much is going to be with the kids, starting from, typically they had a little prep in the morning when the kids were eating breakfast in the cafeteria. Well, now they're going to have them eating with them in the room, where they're not going to have as much time to plan. So that 1:45 to 3:30 is really, cleaning, planning, reaching out to those families that have decided to do at home or remote instruction.
This planning is really, am I correct in saying, it's kind of a logistical nightmare, really?
It really is. It really has been kind of a logistical nightmare, and we were fortunate. We had 17 people on a reentry committee. That last time I talked to you, the guidance had just come out, that 63-page guidance from the ISBE, and so what we did is I grabbed some teachers, administrators. Our committee MVP was Ryan Williams. He served as a parent, a board member, and working at the health department. So
lots of hats for you.
That's right, and we really leaned on his expertise and his advice on a lot of the decision making, and it was good to have him on the committee, and that's why I wanted him here today, because he was instrumental in helping us kind of guide us through this process of how do we safely bring kids back.
Help me with a little deja vu here. Last spring, didn't you have a little taste of this fruit basket upset business before school was out?
In March, yeah, we went to remote learning for everybody just instantly. We found out that we had to go to remote learning on a Monday, and I think we found out maybe on a Thursday or a Friday.
Oof.
And it was one of those deals where there's a teacher shortage now, and I can see there definitely is, and I can see it continuing, because the teachers are there's a lot thrown at them right now, and they go to classes and they learn how to provide in-person instruction. The providing remote learning for kids all online, that's just something that they're having to learn and on the fly, and we're trying our best to provide professional development. We're trying our best to find formats or different things that can help them with providing that at home, and we're doing the best that we can, but it is challenging, and the teachers are stressed, and I get it. I mean, it's a difficult time in education right now, for sure.
Gosh,
Ryan's grandfather would just shake his head in dismay when I was serving District 27. Governor Wilbur was in charge of our junior high. And I want to tell you, son, your granddaddy did a whale of a job. He physically toured that when those kids were coming. He kept track of what was going on. His head was on a swivel all the time, and he did a magnificent job. I have a great respect for.
Those are the days when discipline, you could discipline a little different than what we can now, correct?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, what is discipline today? Is it, gosh, I wish he hadn't done that.
Unfortunately, times it feels that way.
The virtual side of trying to teach these, that has to be a real a monumental nightmare to plan it and organize it and get it on air.
It is, and we're very fortunate to have a strong technology department in District 27. Barb Coffey, and then her assistant Kim Skelton. We have teachers who have really done the professional development and education on technology and providing online education. So we're fortunate to be able to provide Chromebooks to all students, kindergarten up. We provide tablets for the pre-K kids because they're more of a hands-on touch, sort of thing as opposed to typing already on a Chromebook. But we're doing our best to provide all the technology that we can for the students at home. We also have plenty of hotspots for those, and hotspots are basically used to provide internet connectivity for those families in town who don't have internet access at their home. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that there's equity across the board for all of our learners. And many of our teachers actually utilize the hotspots. Sometimes, if you live out in the country, it's hard to connect with kids because the connectivity is so slow. So we've handed out hotspots to teachers to help them out. So it's been challenging, but like I said, we're very fortunate to have such a strong technology department that really steps up and does everything that they can to provide the best education in a very difficult time. I mean,
a very difficult
Ryan
time.
didn't know that all this was going to happen when he agreed to serve on District 27 board. By the way, Ryan, I just kind of make it a little aside here. It was my privilege to serve on one of the best administrators we ever had with Les Plotner's on 27, and I think that you're lucky enough to have drawn the same sort of ace of spades.
Yeah,
we have
really
an outstanding administrator with us at Kent, and we appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Besides that, he gave us some awfully good athletes here in the county.
And they're still coming.
Digress just a minute. Tell me about this young man of yours who graduated here.
Kate, my son?
Yes.
Yes, he just recently graduated, and now now putting my parent hat on, it's figuring out will he get to go to college? Will they have athletics? The conference just released that they're not going to have the fall sports in the conference that he plays in, and so but he's heading to Missouri S&T, which is in Rolla. So it used to be Missouri Rolla. It's a Division II school, so he's excited to get on campus, but just leery of will I get that college experience that he's been so looking forward to having.
Ken, is that what we used to call Rolla School of Mines?
Yep.
Is that what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that was well known way back.
I hate to be so mercenary, but education has changed so dramatically since my kids were in school. And you talk about having to provide technological help for these kids. How in the world do you finance all this? School finance has always been a hill to climb. What in the world are you doing?
So fortunately, they did provide a CARES grant, a federal grant. It's the coronavirus, pretty much stimulus money that we're able to use to help purchase additional devices, and but otherwise it is a balancing act. And we just passed the budget on Monday, and we told them it was the most tentative budget that our CFO Colleen Jadlowski and I had ever developed, because there's just so many unknowns, and we assured them that we more than likely will be amending the budget at the end of the school year, because there's just too much that is so up in the air and so uncertain right now. So
I'll tell you what's not up in the air and uncertain, and that is the certainty that we have to acknowledge sponsors. So we'll take a couple of seconds now and do that for our sponsors. Go ahead. I get all choked up when I talk with you guys. Well, go ahead, Jim. Having paid obeisance to our much appreciated sponsors, we're right back here in the studio live with the program Viewpoint this morning. Guest this morning, Mr. Ryan Williams, who's on the the Lincoln School District number 27 Board of Education, and our administrator in District 27, Mr. Kent Froebe, doing an outstanding job for us under very difficult circumstances. Administrators statewide, well, really the countrywide, because of this COVID thing, they're like circus jugglers. They've gone to about 6 balls in the air at once, juggling them, trying to figure out what to do and how to, bearing in mind that their sole responsibilities is the youngsters of their particular districts. And so it has to be a difficult situation. In the old days, you could go to work and you had a certain set of routine, and you just followed, made sure you followed the school laws and do a good job of being in communication with the teachers and so forth. That day is gone. Today they have to be a circus juggler, and that's exactly what's taken place for every school district in the country, and for that matter, colleges. David Gerlach's done a whale of a job at Lincoln College, bouncing the balls around in the air, trying to come up with the right solutions. And so far, thanks to his great staff, it looks like we're going to open up this fall, which is a wonderful thing. And of course, lingering on the sidelines all the time, I was wondering what's going to happen to Johnny and Jane, or the parents. And so, Brian, we appreciate the fact that you give your time to serve the youngsters. I don't want to embarrass you, but I sure had a lot of fun watching you on the basketball court. It's one of the real reasons I went, because if you wanted to see a hustler, he was a hustler. So we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
It's a good thing you've already practiced hustling.
Yeah, right. Well, particularly, education is a deep thing in the Williams family. His grandfather, Wilbur, Don was a great school board. And of course, we have Mother Marla, Moms Who Care. She and Cindy Ossiker have started out this combination of two ladies who have demonstrated that even though they're not in the classroom anymore, their heart's still in the classroom. And so, tip of the hat to your mom and to Cindy Ossiker.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're great.
Well, and others as well. One thing about these awful things that befall us is sometimes it brings groups and people together for common good, and we're more interested in somebody other than number one, right. And that's happened here for you, hasn't it? Between the Moms Who Care, the YMCA, and I'm sure there are other organizations who've stepped up to the plate to see to it that things get to go on in somewhat normal fashion.
Right. Which brings me to a fact that Mr. Froebe wanted to mention an organization, so you go right ahead, Kent, with your you mentioned.
Well, I did want to make sure that I mentioned the YMCA. They partnered with us for many years, providing before and after school care for families, and I know that they're also working on a plan to be able to provide in the event that we do have to shut down again like we did last March, if heaven forbid numbers spike in Logan County, or the governor comes out and says we're going back to phase 3 and we've got to shut down, that the YMCA is working on a plan to be able to provide some child care. And so I urge our families to really have a backup plan in place, because this is an ever-changing landscape with this pandemic, and so it's a situation where it's not just weekly changing, it's daily. I mean, what I think is good right now, I might find out at the end of the day we've got to transition to something completely different.
Yeah.
And so I urge parents to have, okay, you might think that we're starting school and your plan is to send your kid back to school, and I'm optimistic and hopeful that that's going to be the case, but you want to have a backup plan in the event that we all have to go to remote learning. And so the YMCA has stepped up. I know there's other organizations in town and daycares that also will be stepping up and helping out in the event that parents need to have a daycare for their kid to go to if schools do not open. And so
there are so many things that are affected by this. I was reading an article about when we have the remote learning, as opposed to the kids being in school, you have a real issue with the meals that the kids are served in school. That becomes a big issue. Also, child abuse is so oftentimes recognized at school because there's nobody else around to recognize it and report it.
Correct.
And that's an issue that we don't normally think about. So you're just faced with all kinds of things with the remote learning.
Well, and like your daughter she leads the DCFS in town, I'm sure that DCFS calls just have been spiking because of, the at-home situation or
yes.
It's very unfortunate, but Yeah, just socially and emotionally, to me, it's best for kids to be in school and interacting with their peers, and
and learning to interact, because we don't all come from the same house, and different homes have different rules for their kids, and you all have to learn to get along together, and that's where it starts, is in school, and the remote learning deprives these kids of that.
That's correct.
Ryan, when you first came aboard, were there any eye-openers for you when you sat down at that board table for the first time?
Not necessarily. Like Mr. Froebe commented on earlier, we have a very good board. I knew almost all of them going into it, so it was a very comfortable feeling. And about a year ago, it was nice and peaceful, and I would say easy compared to what this March brought. But
and then you hit the wall.
Yeah, but. With good leadership and a good group of people, as far as administrators and teachers and aides, and Connie with the lunch staff, they've really been able to make it look easy, even though we know it's not. So,
but how in the world did your committee face this? This is something you never ever thought you'd have to face, the business of too open or not too open, and how and when.
And that's why it was important to begin when we did, but then for Mr. Froebe to get everybody in a room together, because I think the first few meetings were just a lot of questions, just asking things and not knowing the answer, and just being clear with everybody that things may change tomorrow, a week, you don't know, and there's no answer you can give with certainty, because everything can change. So I think it was just a lot of, we meant to do hour meetings. I think they were mostly 2 hours, but it was good. It was from the teachers, the administrators, just a lot of questions, not a lot of fear, but just how are we going to do that? What's the best way to do it? And I think that's how the plan really developed into, I've said it to Mr. Froebe in private, we can't do anything else in this plan to protect the students and teachers more. So I really feel like we gave our best effort on what we could provide, as opposed to just going to remote learning. So, and then giving the choice. That was the big thing, is for those that are wanting to stay home, we gave that opportunity, and those that want to be back in school, we're trying to provide that as well. So I think that really helped, going into it, knowing that we were able to do both things.
Last spring, when you had a little taste of this business of people trying to teach their kids at home, I'm sure that it was lucky you had that, because you learned from what you did then.
Yeah, it was kind of a practice run, and a lot of the credit, I think, goes to the technology staff, because last year they had about 2 days notice, I believe, and we're able to provide Chromebooks.
Take your time, don't rush, right?
Exactly. And we were able to get Chromebooks to everybody, making sure those students, even though it wasn't the same education they were getting something. And I have now a second grade daughter, and seeing her interact with her teacher remotely, and her classmates, that was the highlight of her days during that time. So it was very important that we were able to connect students with their teachers and with other students. So, if we have to go to that again, I think we're as prepared as anyone to do that as well.
But now you see, you're at an advantage. If I were having kids in school now, I'm not a teacher.
Yes, you are in a way.
Well, no. I mean, I didn't go to school. So you're lucky at your house.
Well, what was a big help was my mom, being a fifth grade teacher for 35 plus years. She was happy to get a little classroom action with Harper.
And thank you, God.
Yeah, but yeah, it's got to be. I know Mr. Froebe has a wife that teaches, and also had 4 kids at home trying to teach them this year. So he's very sympathetic to how hard it is and what goes into it, and has seen it in his household. So
by osmosis, Ketch, you just inherited a doggone good board member, didn't you?
I started recruiting him a few years ago. I knew that we'd have some getting off eventually, and I said, when they do, Ryan, you're coming on. So I'm lucky he applied.
We're finding out he's very articulate, so you have a board member who won't just sit there like a bump on a log.
Right, exactly.
When you
which is important. Even he can disagree with you, which I would find very rare. But one thing about it, he'd do it in an agreeable manner. So,
Correct,
which
yeah.
is very important.
All of our board members have been
Yes, you
excellent.
have an excellent board.
Yes.
You really do. Of course, I'm a little bit prejudiced about District 27 boards.
How many years were you a board member? Do you remember?
Oh, I think something like 15 or something like
Yeah.
that. I finally moved out of town, and they had to replace me. I went from 27 to 72, exactly what I did.
Oh, yeah.
I reversed my numbers. 72 board members, by the way, that's West Lincoln Broadwell, for those who are uninformed about that. Ryan, your committee members, do you meet off hours and so forth as you work with Mr. Froebe?
Probably all hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were meeting weekly. As of right now, we're kind of waiting to see what, the plan's out. I don't think we have any planned meetings coming up. It's just kind of stand by and see what the next week brings. And
But we were very lucky to have committee members who were willing to give up part of their days. I mean, for teachers to be willing to give up their July to come in and meet to discuss about.
And that's important.
It was important to have good committee members, and like Ryan was willing to give up part of his day from work, and he had a boss that understood the importance of this, that said go be a part of this committee.
648-5510. Once again, Mrs. Busby, the old fella sat here and watched that clock run around, and we didn't give the people an opportunity to call in and ask any questions or make any comments. They would just be nice to them, folks, because I'll shut you off. No, seriously, 648-5510. Ryan Williams and Mr. Kent Froebe, representing District 27 and doing a whale of a job of it. So, by the way, I must also tell you that the boil order for Lincoln has been lifted.
Oh,
so
thank you.
there's a bright note on your day, folks. The bright note on Judy's my day is we had two outstanding guests in the field of education, and I kind of feel pretty much of a kinship with young Ryan here, having served many years on the Board of Education. And I think it's one of the best, if I ever did anything right, it was one of the best things I ever did, Ryan. And you'll feel that as you get to be an old man like me.
absolutely, it's a pleasure to be on the board and just have a small part in the district. District 27 means a lot to the Williams family.
You bet it does.
It was my only way to contribute, not being a teacher and or administrator. So it was my pathway into the district, and I've really enjoyed it so far. And hopefully everything the next coming years is we'll say easier than right now.
Well,
It sure can't get a whole lot worse, surely.
grandparents are up there smiling and laughing
Absolutely.
about this.
Yes, yes.
We know about that, yeah.
What percent of parents do you figure will decide to homeschool?
They'll to choose the actual remote learning option. Is that what
Yes.
you're? Yeah, we did a survey back at the beginning of July, and we received, I think it was around 20% that said that they would be keeping their kids at home. Hopefully, once the plan's been released, some of those parents determine, I do feel somewhat safe sending their, our child to school, but. It's up in the air. I think I read where nationally right now it's about 13% that are choosing to stay at home, but I don't know what it'll look like for our district. I know that we do have registration tomorrow. It's been a challenge. We decided we changed our program for student management, and so we changed that to where now we did online registration. And of course, it's been challenging at times, but we are doing an online registration. We do have registration tomorrow where parents can call by appointment if they're having trouble with the online registration, and they can call their school and set up an appointment time between 10 and 6 tomorrow to come in and meet with the principal and the secretary to get their child registered. And we encourage all of the families, whether you're choosing in-person or remote, we still need you to register to make sure that we get you signed up to start the year off. So,
What else can you tell us about the plans that came out of the committee?
Here, Ryan, you want to talk about the plan that you helped us?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's probably 10 pages of information in here, and it basically getting everybody's eyes on it. I know I've had some people read it from my office, and everyone's been very impressed with how thorough it is. I mean, we go it goes through everything from sanitizing desks to temperature checks to symptom screenings to entry procedures.
So I think that's a big one, Ryan. I mean, we will be doing temperature check when the kids arrive at school. We'll be doing a temperature check before
Is
they
that
even
a
go to
fact?
class. Yeah.
Another just a little bit of a thing. But again, that takes somebody's time.
That will take some time. We do have
bunch
a
of
lot of the forehead thermometers. We have a couple kiosks where they just run by their wrist, and we've been testing it at the office, and it's been pretty accurate. So we will be testing the kids, their temperatures, and then there is a quarantine room in each building that if a kid does have a
Is that a
temperature, that
fact?
we'll be sending them to the quarantine room, and then notifying parents to come pick them up that they have a fever. You know,
We've
No.
even gotten down to the point where at the junior high they have it set up to where their homerooms and lockers, no kid will be within 5 lockers of another one while they're being dismissed. So I mean, the amount of detail and thought that has had to go into just the simple things of
A
letting
simple
a kid go
thing
to
like locker assignment in that case.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of time.
yeah. So it's you
well,
know
the big thing at the junior high has been typically the bell rings and everybody switches classes. Well,
Yes.
the principals had to really work along with Mrs. Coffey, the technology director, to put the kids into groups of 20 or less, and they'll be just changing classes with that group of 20. So they'll all be provided the same classes, but they will be in a cluster of 15, no more than 20 kids that they're with daily. And so that's something that's different than what we've ever had to do before. I think that then helps us and helps the health department when it comes to like contact tracing. If heaven forbid a student does come down with COVID-19, then we're able to trace it back to, okay, this cluster of kids were with this student all day, that sort of thing. I think the biggest challenge going back to the plan was the guidance from the state. And I know that they've got a very difficult job as well, and they've been putting out 63-page documents, and then we recently received a 104-page document. But there's a lot of the phrase that's really frustrating superintendents is the if possible. So there's a lot
If
of
possible.
do this if possible. Well, what does that mean? And what as a committee,
How do you
we
define if
decipher?
possible?
Yeah, 6 feet apart if possible. Well, that's not possible in any classroom across the country.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of if possibles in the guidance, and it became very challenging for us to decipher. Okay, what does that mean? What is still okay? Our attorney has been very active in the plan and making sure that that's a fear, the liability issue of bringing kids back and making sure that we're following the guidance to a T. And I feel like we do have a very thorough plan that our committee worked on, and so it's just now it's just waiting to see if we're going to actually be able to put the plan in place. Come August 14th when we're supposed to open our doors for kids to come in, and then we'll go from there and see how it works.
Then that's just 2 weeks off.
It's not far away. Correct.
648-5510.
How do the parents get all the copies of things?
Good question. So it's on our Facebook page. It's on our web page. We sent it out via text to everybody yesterday in all of our families who are registered for our school messenger program. They would have received a text with this information. There's also a survey on there that pretty much we need to have filled out by August 3rd, Monday, August 3rd, that says I'm choosing in person or I'm choosing remote. And so that way the principals in their buildings can start figuring out, okay, there's 25 kids at Washington Monroe that aren't going to be coming back, and we need to make sure we get them a device and get them learning remotely. And so that's kind of where we're at now. If we could have parents go online and make sure they fill out that survey to let us know, and then also go online if they haven't registered to register, or get a hold of their building and set up an appointment to register if they're struggling online.
Like right away, because you have to figure out how to place these kids.
Like by August 3rd, yeah.
Mr. Froebe, am I correct in worrying that down the road, this is all said and done and so forth, that notwithstanding all efforts by everybody involved, there's going to be some bad residual effects from this whole thing on certain youngsters?
I think that's a hard question, Mr. Gossett, to determine, but I think that educationally, if we do a year of completely remote learning, I think that it will affect kids negatively, but I think that it won't just affect it'll be across the country. It won't be.
Yes, I mean nationwide, not just
it'll be
here.
Nationwide. It won't be Lincoln kids, or it won't be
No.
Everybody at least will have the same
It'll be the same
starting line.
Same disadvantages, so to speak.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, after all is said and done, the one I think that suffering is the kid who's a student going into school and having to look forward to 12 more years of it. It's just darn tough to accommodate everybody's everything.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, the other
I don't
thing
envy you.
is the economic factor, and that is when I was a kid in school 1,000 years ago. Anyway, it seems like it. Seriously, we had a minimum of one-parent family working. For the most part, we had dad going to work and mother staying home. Now, I know that's kind of a panacea outlook, but that's the way it was way back then. And these are entirely different times
Different
today.
times, a lot of single parents, families. And,
Economics are a major factor in
Correct.
many families, which wasn't, well, we had some problems, of course, that's inevitable. But today it's kind of almost a certainty that of 10 families, you're going to have 7 or 8 of them with a single parent,
correct. Yeah.
which is a sad commentary, but nonetheless.
We're going to run out of minutes here before I want to. Can you give us some more of the revelations from the committee? I just don't envy you. So big, I don't envy you.
No, it's actually, a lot of time, and Mr. Froebe did a lot of the writing, I assume, of the plan, but it was just a lot of conversation. It was just a lot of good questions being asked, and I think people just wanting reassurance, and the attitude that they were all looking for ways to get back in the classroom. From the teachers and the administrators, he said it earlier, it's all hands on deck, and it's really shown through in the meetings that, there's not opposition to, going back, or it's how do we do this safely, how do we do it for the kids, how do we do it for the teachers, but really just a great team effort throughout the whole district of getting in one room and making some tough decisions, but also...
And speaking of team effort, I've been in regular communications with Dolan Dowpaws at the hospital.
Yes.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Regular communications with Don Cavey, the head of the Logan County Health Department.
Right.
And I recently, the superintendents and I met with, we will have a Logan County Health Liaison, Kara Davis. We met with her yesterday. And so that's nice to have that, to be able to call her on her cell and say, okay, this scenario just happened. What do we need to do? Who should be quarantined? And so we're very fortunate. I know, Ryan, did you want to talk briefly about, do you guys have the testing coming up here at the
Yes.
at the fairgrounds?
As of today, at 9 o'clock, we are offering drive-through testing from 9 to 11, or while our supplies last. Kara was able to last week secure some tests from the state, so we're allowed to do the testing. You come in the main entrance at the fairgrounds and go to the left. There'll be signage. It'll be a drive-through. We're going to offer that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week from 9 to 11, and Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday next week from 9 to 11. And then from there, we'll just see how the need is and if we are able to do more. So yeah, we've been wanting to do this for a while. It's been hard to acquire testing supplies. So we do have some right now, and hopefully we're not overwhelmed today. Bear with us. We're learning on the fly.
Of the health department.
Yes, and the health department, like the schools, is all hands on deck during this time. Everybody's kind of out of their comfort zone and doing a different task than we normally would do. So we are trying to provide the services we can with the limited staff.
Now,
And if you're going to the testing, I assume you're demanding that we have masks And,
Should be, and it'll all be drive-through, so you can
drive-through.
remain in your car. Our nurse will be, full PPE and doing the testing. So
Ryan,
yeah,
what's the turnaround? What are they saying the turnaround is?
2 to 3 days on
Oh,
these.
that's
So,
remarkable.
and we will be doing. I'm pretty sure we will be doing the contacting. So hopefully, those that are tested today in 2 to 3 days will have the results. We'll be delivering them to the Springfield lab. So hopefully everything goes smoothly. It starts here in about 3 minutes. So,
Mr. Williams, let me ask you a question here about that. Are you recommending that the average Joe and Jane Smith drive through there and get tested? As with, like here we are. I'm 90-some, and my wife's 90-something. Should we get tested? I just don't see the need for us for taking somebody's time.
I don't want to discourage anybody from getting tested, but I also agree with that. If there's more people in need, showing symptoms, been exposed, had contact.
That's the point there.
Yeah, that to me, is a quicker need. If we get into next week and there's no line and you just want to know, but we're not discouraging anybody, but yes, those that really need it, we hope that we're able to provide that service for them.
Our guest this morning, Mr. Kent, did you have anything to say in conclusion, Mr. Froebe?
So. I think I've talked enough today, Mr. Gossett.
pleasure.
No, a man in your position can never talk enough. Don't worry about that. Our guest this morning, Mr. Kent Froebe, District Superintendent for School District number 27 here, our elementary school system, and a product of that system, young Ryan Williams. We're so proud. Proud to have you on with this young man, who, by the way, he's working for us at the health department. And we just gave us a little information about testing. So you folks get your if you think there's a need, but I just find it almost selfish for somebody like myself to drive through there and take time, So thank you very much, gentlemen, and be sure and thank your mom for her moms who care.
Will do.
Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Oh, it goes with my one time. Remember, be the reason somebody smiled today.
Thank you, people.